Section 69 of The Toilers of the Sea by Victor Hugo. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by John Greenman. Chapter 6. Gilliatt brings the Paunch into position. This rescue of the engine, planned by Gilliatt, was, as we have already said, a veritable escape from prison, and everyone knows the patience and industry required for an escape. Industry is carried to the miraculous, patience even to agony. A prisoner, Thomas, for example, at Mont Saint Michel, finds the means of secreting half a wall inside his straw pallet. Another, at Tulle, in 1820, cuts the lead from the promenade platform of the prison. With what knife? Impossible to divine. Melts this lead. With what fire? No one knows. Runs this lead into a mold made of breadcrumbs, and with this mold makes a key, and with this key opens a lock, only the keyhole of which he had seen. With these incredible displays of skill Gilliatt was endowed. He could have ascended and descended the cliff of Bois Rosé. He was the trench of a wreck and the Latude of an engine. The sea, who was the jailer, kept watch over him. However, as we have said, wretched and unpleasant as the rain was, he had put it to use. He had, to some extent, replenished his stock of fresh water, but his thirst was unquenchable, and he emptied his can almost as rapidly as he filled it. One day, the last day of April, I think, or the first of May, all was at length in readiness. The flooring of the engine was framed, as it were, between the 8 cables of the tackle, 4 on each side. The 16 openings through which these cables passed were connected on the deck and beneath the hull by sawed lines. The planking had been cut through with the saw, the timbers with the axe, the iron with the file, the sheathing with the chisel. The part of the keel above which the engine rested was cut squarely, and was ready to lower with the machine while supporting it. All this frightful swinging hammock was now held by a single chain, which in its turn depended only upon a single stroke of the file. At this point of achievement, so near the end, haste is prudence. The tide was low, the moment favorable. Gilliatt had succeeded in dismounting the shaft of the paddle wheels, the end of which might present an obstacle and retard the descent. He had succeeded in fastening this heavy piece vertically in the very framework of the engine. It was time to make an end of it. Gilliatt was not fatigued, because he would not yield to it, as we have said, but his tools were. The forge was gradually becoming impracticable. The stone anvil had split. The draft had begun to work badly. As the little hydraulic fall was of sea water, saline deposits had formed in the joints of the apparatus and interfered with its working. Gilliatt went to the inlet of the Man, surveyed the Paunch, assured himself that all there was in good condition, particularly the 4 rings fixed to the starboard and port, then raised the anchor and rowed the boat back to the 2 Douvres. The passage between the Douvres was wide enough to admit the boat. There was also sufficient depth. Gilliatt, from the very first day, had recognized the fact that the boat could be brought directly under the Durande. The labor, however, was excessive. It required the precision of a jeweler, and this insertion of the bark into the reef was all the more delicate because, for Gilliatt's purpose, it was necessary to enter stern foremost, with the rudder ahead. It was important that the mast and the rigging of the Paunch should remain free from the wreck, on the side towards the entrance. These embarrassments in the maneuver rendered the operation difficult even for Gilliatt himself. It was no longer, as in the inlet of the Man, a question of a turn of the helm. He must push, draw, row, and sound all at the same time. Gilliatt spent no less than a quarter of an hour over it, but he succeeded. In 15 or 20 minutes the boat was adjusted beneath the Durande. It lay almost wedged in. By means of his two anchors Gilliatt moored the Paunch head and stern. The largest of them was so placed as to resist the strongest wind which was to be feared, which is the west wind. Then, by the aid of a lever and a capstan, Gilliatt lowered into the boat the two cases containing the dismounted wheels, whose slings were all ready. These two cases furnished the ballast. Having got rid of his two cases, Gilliatt attached to the hook of the capstan chain the sling of the regulating tackle, intended to check the pulley. For Gilliatt's purpose the defects of the Paunch became useful qualities. She was not decked over; the cargo would have more depth, and could rest in the hold. Her mast was well forward, too far forward, perhaps. The cargo would have more room, and, the mast being thus beyond the wreck, nothing would hinder the exit. It was nothing but a wooden shoe, and nothing is so stable and solid on the sea as a wooden shoe. All at once Gilliatt observed that the sea was rising. He looked to see whence the wind was coming. Chapter 7. Gilliatt brings the Paunch into position.